Good morning and welcome to Oakland and to the La Escuelita Downtown Educational Complex. My name is Jody London. I'm the president of the Board of Education. I represent North Oakland on the school board. I want to recognize my colleague, Vice President Jamoke Hinton-Hodge, who's here with us today. We're also going to be hearing today from State Superintendent Tom Torlakson, Dr. Jeff Vincent from UC Berkeley, our Superintendent Tony Smith, Linda Gallagher, Cesar Diaz, and you'll have an opportunity to tour the facility as well. One of the things that I'm very proud of in Oakland is our commitment to green buildings and to sustainability. Oakland in 2007 adopted the Collaborative for High Performing Schools as our building standard. So every construction project that we do in Oakland meets these green building standards. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were the first district in California to take advantage of state matching grants for doing green construction. And we've continued to do that. And those grants do help us offset the cost of our projects. Although a building like this, a $70 million project, about which you'll hear more shortly, you need all the help you can get. So we've been very ingenious with our partnerships and finding different ways to support our work. We do a range of work, and we really do appreciate the support that we've gotten over many years from the voters of Oakland for our different bond initiatives. I was very pleased last year in 2011 when Superintendent Torlakson took office to be a member of his Schools of the Future task force. And I'm very excited about the report that Dr. Vincent and his colleagues have prepared today, because it's one of the first things that's coming out of that Schools of the Future task force. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my friend, State Superintendent Tom Torlakson. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. And delighted to be here in Oakland, delighted to be here at this site, La Escuelita, and to honor the fact that people in Oakland have said, let's invest in the future of our children, to honor the fact that you have board leadership. Jody spoke of some of that leadership. You have a great superintendent, and you believe in investing in the future, and you believe in a holistic approach where you do partner, you do team up with the community. And so having schools seen as a welcoming place, a part of the neighborhood, a community center for many needs is something that this school site stands for, this board and Superintendent Tony Smith stand for. And we're proud to be here to announce a report that is, as Jody said, the outcome, one of the first products of two reports that were collaborative in shaping an action plan for California. One is a blueprint for great schools, and the other is the Schools of the Future report, which Jody served on, and Cesar Diaz, who will speak in a little while, was chairman of that effort. So we're pleased to say that we needed a roadmap, we needed more detail, we had general ideas of where we needed to go. We know that voters, when given a chance to see tangibly what they could invest in as far as the future of their kids and schools, when they have a chance to see a well thought out ballot measure, a bond measure locally or a statewide measure, they say yes to the future. They say yes to our kids. And so things have changed somewhat. So this report is an update. It's going to be a springboard for action. It's a springboard for putting a framework together that will enable us to have a policy discussion of how we can build into the investment of billions of dollars more with local partnership and state match. How can we build in sustainability, energy efficiency? How can we build in the light, the space, the kind of classroom and learning environment where kids will thrive, and there'll be the natural light and the space for 21st century learning, which is a little bit different than what many of us remember way back, well, not so far back for everybody here, for me, way back when I was a kid growing up in the 50s and 60s, and education is transforming, and our buildings and the place where our learning takes place has to transform with it. The good news is, again, the voters have said yes to well thought out progressive measures. In the last 12 years, they said yes to the tune of about $118 billion. That's about $35 billion on the state side, where we had state bonds, usually about $9 billion each. I was the architect, the chief architect of Senate Bill 50 that launched that series of ballot measures. And that's $35 billion of the equation, but the rest comes locally. The biggest share of that is the local school districts, going to the voters, going to your community, sharing transparently what your plans are and what your hopes are, and bringing them into that idea of a brighter future. And those voters are saying yes. $60 billion of the 118 came from local, across California, local approved measures. Another $10 billion came from developer fees. And so as we look forward, and as this report looks forward, we're looking at how do we arrange the ratio of investment in new schools, where will the new schools be, and how much should we be paying attention to the existing stock, the existing investment in our school buildings. And we definitely, absolutely need to be paying attention to that. Here's a couple of statistics. 10% of our school buildings are over 70 years old. 30% of our schools are over 50 years old. And so there is a lot of need here for sort of the retrofit, the energy efficiency, the greening, and just keeping the investment going, keeping the maintenance of the buildings at a high priority. So as we move forward, we're going to have today an outline of what this report talks about in detail, but we do believe that this is a path for the schools of the future. And I wanted at this time to thank everybody who participated in the Schools of the Future planning process, and now particularly Jeff Vincent. Dr. Jeff Vincent is the author, the Center for Cities and Schools, looking at partnerships and looking at the way we should invest, has come up with a very thoughtful, very positive report that will be a springboard for action. So at this time, Dr. Vincent.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Superintendent Torkelson. I mean, it's really great to see the state of California taking new leadership on this really important issue. So I really want to thank you. You've done so much on this issue, and I want to thank Kathleen Moore, your facility division director, who's really had thoughtful leadership as well. And giving us the opportunity to really take a deep, comprehensive look at this important issue that's really tangible in our communities. I mean, look at this building right behind us. I mean, not only are the children going to be sitting in there every day, but it's a place in our communities. It's surrounded by the other elements of our communities. So it's very tangible. And, I think I'd really like to echo your comment about, every dollar we invest in school facilities is a dollar that can change the future of the state, and it's really true. But add to that we should do, as Californians, whatever we can to get the best value for every one of those dollars. And as Superintendent laid out, we've spent a lot of money. We've invested a lot in our school facilities. But those investments should really give us multiple benefits. And it's really with that lens that my colleagues and I at UC Berkeley Center for Cities and Schools took a comprehensive and deep look at the state of school facilities in California, K-12 school facilities, and the school facilities program, as Superintendent mentioned, which started in 1998. So we've had a good 10 plus years of what we've done, and it's really a time to look at it. So clearly we've had historic investment, and Tom laid out some of those totals for you. And they've provided so many benefits across the state, and I think some of my colleagues behind me will speak to some of those benefits more concretely than I'll take the time to do. But now that at the state level, the funds for contributing to local K-12 facilities, the state funds are kind of at their end. We don't necessarily have a whole lot more going forward unless we take, we go to the voters with another bond or get another source of funds. The purpose of this research was to inform this kind of next generation of funding priorities and policy priorities around how does California ensure safe, adequate, modern, and high-quality facilities for its children. And so we asked, what's the most strategic use of these future funds? Knowing that they'll probably be limited, what's the most strategic use? How should those funds be prioritized? How can the state promote efficient and sound planning for school facilities like this? And what policy changes are needed to support this? And it's important to note, too, that in the report, which is behind you, is it not, certainly not all of what we have laid out is contingent on buckets and buckets of new money. There's a lot of policy reforms in there to just encourage and incentivize good planning, good design, and efficient buildings. But to answer these questions about prioritization and going forward around the next generation, just to give you a sense of what we did, we basically spent the last year of time doing this and really being thoughtful about it, but we interviewed stakeholders statewide. We surveyed the research nationally on best practices around K-12 infrastructure investment, and we looked at how every other state in the country approaches this issue. looking for innovative practices, good ideas that might be useful here in California. And California is clearly a leader on this front, and states across the country are kind of all over the board. Some of them fund school facilities at the state level, some of them do not. And we wanted to understand California's kind of challenges, needs, and opportunities going forward. And really from the best practices, we identified 4 elements of an effective, well-managed K-12 infrastructure program. And they're not rocket science, but they're super important. Sound planning, effective management, adequate and equitable funding, and appropriate accountability. And that's really the pillars that we built the recommendations around, which really build off of a lot of the good work that the superintendent led on the Schools of the Future task force and the reports that came out of that. And so we analyzed California through these lenses. And really what we found, as the superintendent was alluding to, is that we're in a very different place now as a state than we were in 1998 when Senate Bill 50 passed and the current school facilities program was developed. On one hand, there's a fairly significant slowdown in the economy, and likewise that translates into much slower growth enrollment projections coming out of the Department of Finance than we had over the last 10, 12, 15 years. But also there's an entirely new state policy framework aimed at aligning growth and infrastructure development for more sustainable communities. And so I'm talking about things like climate change legislation and Senate Bill SB 375, and trying to make communities more livable, more walkable, and more energy efficient, which includes reinvesting in our older neighborhoods. It includes building new neighborhoods that are more compact across the board. And really what California needs going forward, what we found to meet those demands, is to move from a heavy emphasis on new construction to a strong focus on fully modernizing our existing schools that are serving the vast majority of our children in the state. And in some cases, this means replacing buildings that really are outmoded and outdated. And Tom alluded to some of the ages of just understanding the stock of schools that we have out there. But we also need to move from what I would call siloed K-12 facility planning to planning for those schools and investing in them as part of the broader scope of community and regional sustainability. And California has really made kind of has unprecedented strides at the national level in state policies around those interests, and we need to bring those together. And then I would say we need to move from sort of conventional planning, design, and construction procedures to what I would call, and what we call in the report, intentional innovation for equitable, efficient, and cost-effective investments. And I think that probably when folks look at the report, they're going to say, wow, a lot of money is needed, and I'll talk about that in a second. And I think that it's important to remember that we probably, as a state, and as state-level funds, we probably can't afford to get too big. I don't know exactly what too big is, but we really cannot afford to not be strategic with our funds at the state level. And that, if you take one thing away from what we've pulled together here, it would be that really we can't afford to not be strategic. And as Tom alluded to, on the numbers of schools, we have a massive inventory of existing schools. We have about 10,000 schools across the state. And as we illustrate in the report with the best information that was available, modernizations of many of these schools for health, safety, and educational quality has fallen drastically short to the need. And we try to document and quantify what we know about that in the report. Many school districts have large deferred maintenance lists. They have numerous portable classrooms peppering their campuses, not to mention the many outdated, energy inefficient, and technology deficient school buildings. And these are things that are costing us money, but they're also hindering 21st century skill building by our students. And so what we lay out in the report is try to understand, okay, if we were to fully invest in our K-12 school facilities to really meet the needs out there for safety, for modernization in today's era that includes technology and energy efficiency, but also for educational program that includes science labs, et cetera, how much money would that take? And so, as Tom alluded to, the number we came up with was about $118 billion, which, yes, is certainly a lot. But, on the new construction side, we estimate about $36 billion is needed, and this is both to accommodate what the Department of Finance is putting out in terms of the numbers of new students we're going to see over the next decade. And keep in mind that 118 is for the next decade. But it also covers those building replacements that I mentioned. And for modernizations of existing schools, we're estimating that about $28 billion is needed. Again, it's those things that I just talked about, everything from roof repair, a leaking roof, to energy efficiency and upgrade, technology upgrades, as well as maybe classroom configuration or supporting career technical education, or things that the Department of Ed has really programmatically pushed, and local districts have as well, to improve education. But I think added to that, what we really want to recommend here is that Californians introduce a new category of investment, and we call this capital renewals. And capital renewals is really an building industry standard best practice of keeping buildings safe and operable by spending about 2 to 4% of their replacement value every year just to keep them in good, safe working order. Any building owner would do that. If you're a homeowner, you probably easily do that every year. And doing this for all schools across California would be about a $5 billion annual total. And clearly, as the superintendent alluded to, again, there are important questions on where these funds will come from. And that's a really significant conversation we need to have. But they'll likely come, again, continuing the unique state and local funding partnership that we have here in California. Some of those funds will come locally, and some of those funds will come to the state. And we need to really have conversations about what that share is going to be going forward. But what our report does is lay out a roadmap for promoting quality school facilities in sustainable communities for California. And there's 8 recommendations, and I'm not going to spend the time going through them at all. I think I'll wrap up here in just a second, but I want to say that the recommendations range from having the state legislature create a state master plan for K-12 school facilities, as we found that at least 11 other states do. But that master plan should be connected to all the other infrastructure priorities that I talked about that we have been doing here in California. But it also needs to be a plan that's guided by real information on the ground about the conditions and qualities of our buildings throughout our communities. So it should be data driven. And then the other recommendations range from what we call process innovations for state agency cross-collaboration and state agency streamlining, something that the superintendent has talked about often, as well as increasing the transparency and accountability of our state funding around K-12 facilities, and then adopting very specific policies that tangibly link and align our school facilities guidelines to the municipal and other local government land use planning guidelines that we have. And I think that there's a lot of work that can be done there, and we spend time in the report pointing to the specificities of those to get to this implementation piece that Tom is talking about. So I'll wrap up and say that we hope that state leaders will really use this information that we've pulled together to guide the discussion on the next generation of facilities and funding in California. And being at the University of California, Berkeley, we're very excited and available to prepare in understanding how to implement and looking at feasibility issues around implementation. But I think that California is really positioned to be definitely a national leader on these issues, but also then a leader locally in communities like this that are getting buildings like this to support children. So thank you very much. And right now I'll introduce Oakland Unified Superintendent Tony Smith.
Morning, everybody. Morning, everybody. This is exciting. So for me, it's really an easy job. I get to say a lot of thank yous. First to the State Superintendent for being here and choosing this place to make an announcement about really rethinking investment in the infrastructure of K-12. And what we've done with the leadership of our board is really say that the K-12 public system needs to be the infrastructure for a healthy city, for healthy communities. And I think what we've seen by both the report, but also what we've taken on here about putting thriving students and thriving community members at the center of our work is really getting manifest in the built environment. And we've had incredible leadership on staff from Tim White, my associate superintendent, and then all the staff. We've had incredible construction partners and the architectural design to really hold out a vision. I think you have to understand that you don't just start building and start laying bricks on top of each other. It has to be connected to something. And what we've said is we want to have a sense of connectivity, a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging that gets fostered by the built environment. And that's what you see here. And I think what we've done is make an investment in Oakland, in our children and our families, and to say basically that the K-12 system, the pre-K-12 system, this place will actually house from preschool all the way through high school. It'll have a health clinic, community center, place for our TV station, technology. This is a place of belonging and connection, a place of building purpose, and for young people to see a vision of a healthy future. That takes work. We have a long way to go in Oakland, but part of making good and strategic use of all of our resources is to rethink the built environment, use bond funds, parcel tax, public money, private philanthropy. This really represents an incredible partnership, and with the investment of state funds, the leadership at the state level around a shared and common vision, and beginning to lay that out across the state of California, that our families deserve quality schools in every neighborhood. And that's not just about the content and instruction inside the classroom. That's about how buildings are built, how we're making connections. Every single child deserves a quality school in every single neighborhood. And that's about the infrastructure investment. That's not just in Oakland, but that's across California. And so we deeply appreciate the opportunity to be here. Really, the State Department has taken leadership in putting that forward. We've had incredible partners bringing this vision to life. This will be open and kids will be here August 27th. Little ones will be here, and it's exciting. We got kids here right now. So we're tremendously excited really to continue this work, and obviously to go forward and say thank you to the Oakland public, because yes, there are matching funds from the state, but Oakland has put forward its belief in children through consistently supporting bonds that build, positive, healthy environments like this. So we have the ongoing extraordinary leadership and thought partnership from the Center for Cities and Schools to continue to say these are the kinds of places and spaces that children and families in California deserve. So I just really do have the opportunity to say thank you to everybody for being here, continuing to push into reality these powerful visions of what our children and families deserve. And with that, I'll introduce Linda Gallagher, who's the Vice President of the Bay Area Council. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Tony, and thank you to Dr. Smith and Superintendent Torlakson for adjusting the mic. I'm Linda Gallagher. I'm the Vice President of Education Policy for the Bay Area Council, which is a business association that for 67 years has been working to make life better here in the Bay Area and in California for people who live and work here. The business community really knows only too well how important an educated workforce is to California's prosperity. And to accomplish that, we need better classrooms for our 6 million students, better places for them to learn and to be educated into the jobs of the future. They need safe places to do that and healthy places to do that. They need classrooms that are connected to their communities. Our current physical situation has taught us only too well how important it is that we be careful how we spend money on school facilities. And this report is so valuable at this time because it shows us a roadmap of how to do that. And we're here to very much say to Superintendent Torlakson that we're eager to work with him to turn this roadmap into action, turn it from words into action. With all of you here, we can make that happen. So thank you, and now I want to introduce Cesar Diaz, who's the Legislative Director for the State Building and Construction Trades of California and the co-chair of Superintendent Torlakson's Schools of the Future initiative.
Thank you very much, Linda. First of all, I also want to say thank you to State Superintendent Tom Torlakson for his vision and his leadership, and to the entire staff at the department for putting all these resources together and getting a first comprehensive study to look at the needs that California has for our school facilities. I had the privilege of co-chairing the Superintendent of Public Instruction's Schools of the Future initiative, which brought together a diverse group of individuals and hardworking, put together this report. We believe strongly that this report provides that roadmap for the implementation of what the Schools of the Future initiative put together. So we at the State Building and Construction Trades Council, representing workers, the men and women who are building these schools statewide, stand ready to work with our local school boards and of course our state superintendent of the Department of Education to get more people back to work and to get the vision of creating a better learning environment for students statewide. So thank you.
We're standing here for questions and further input from the good press who's joined us and others. And again, just to underscore, you have healthy visions by healthy districts, healthy boards that are looking for the best, brightest future for our kids. And it's about as Tony said, it's about the kind of spaces and places that are welcoming and conducive to learning. But it's also saying to young people, we value education. It is a top priority, and a building that has a leaky roof and peeling paint does not reflect the priority that we should have for our kids and their education. So this is also a matter of investing in inspiring young people to give them hope and to show them the respect that they deserve. I want to also just thank Kathleen Moore and your staff. Could your CDE staff team just raise their hands? We want to thank them for being here and all the work. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Troy Flynn, Director of Public Relations for the Oakland Unified School District. I'm standing here today in front of the almost completed Escuelita Education Complex. This is the newest K-12 facility that's being built here in the Oakland Unified School District, and one of its most outstanding, which is why it's been selected by the California Department of Education as one of their buildings to highlight. The CDE is holding up this building as an example of what K-12 school facilities should look like for the 21st century. Oakland Unified School District is a model of community-based building and sustainable, green-sensitive practices that are going to set the standard for all of California. Let's talk to some of the people involved with this project and learn a little bit more about its significance and what it means for Oakland students and families. I'm here now with Associate Superintendent of Facilities, Tim White. Tim has been one of the masterminds behind this project and the whole push towards sustainable building, which has been going on here in OUSD. That has been one of the key components of the $435 million bond, which Oakland taxpayers generously awarded the district, and which we've been implementing over the last 5 years. Tim, would you tell the community a little bit about the importance of green building practices in our approach to facilities here at OUSD?
You know, you can't underplay the importance of sustainability and green building practices. This district made a commitment to them many, many years ago, actually formally in 2007. We made a commitment for sustainable design and energy and water and resource conservation. And for us, it was the right thing to do. Sustainable buildings that are efficient actually produce better academic results for the kids that are actually in those buildings. And so for us, our business is education, and we should do those things that improve academic outcomes. Sustainable initiatives improve academic outcomes, greater indoor, greater daylighting has better results for kids who take tests than fluorescent lighting. Places that have better indoor air quality, reduce asthma triggers, and increase the likelihood that students will not be sick and can make all 81 hours of instructional time. And so we want to make sure that we have a commitment to sustainability. We see that as a commitment to this community and a part of community schools.
I think everyone can support those principles. Can you talk a little bit about how they come to life in this specific building here?
This building was many, many years in coming. It was actually a location of a school that was populated entirely with portables. And 30, 40 years they've been promised from the beginning when these portables were set here that they would ultimately have a new school. And obviously it's taken a long time to put together. We started the planning process for this almost 10 years ago. And this community was very integral to the process, and so what you see here is really a manifestation of this district and this community's vision, because we've had many, many changes in terms of our administration, but the community here, the La Escuelita community, has consistently lobbied and maintained that they deserve a right to a quality school, and that's what we ultimately have for them. And thank God for that vision. Without that vision and somebody holding on to those type of visions, this would never happen.
Community engagement has played a huge role in the development of the La Escuelita Education Complex. Can you talk about some of the public spaces or community spaces that people will be able to take advantage of here?
Yeah, I think this place was designed as a community school. We'll have a full-service community kitchen, a great room, television studio. The great room will be available for folks to come in for community activities, whether or not they be assembly activities, stage production type activities as well. We also will have full data networks and laboratories here, as well as 2 child care centers.
So this building and many others like it were made possible by the last bond, which the voters of Oakland generously approved. That bond has almost expired, and there will be a new bond proposal on the November ballot. If you could talk a little bit about some of the projects that could be completed with that money to move OUSD forward.
So none of this would be possible without Oakland voters. I mean, the reality is that the state has underfunded educational facilities for many, many years. And in the state crisis right now, they've restricted funding even further. And so unless a local municipality prioritizes facilities for students, we're not going to have the type of conditions environmentally that we want our kids to learn in. So it's really critical that communities do put their money where their mouth is at, and in this case, Oakland has continually done that. The 435 has pretty much been exhausted on over $1.5 billion in defined need. We do have a aspiration putting a measure on the ballots November 2012 for about 475 to address a portion of that $1.5 billion need. And for us, we want to expand this type of opportunity in this community across the rest of Oakland and make sure that we have this type of environmental equity for all communities. We'd like to redo Fremont as an example. Fremont High School is in dire need of many improvements. There's also additional improvements that we need to make to Sankofa and Washington. Many of the West Oakland schools, especially under the new STEM initiative, need to be totally redone to accommodate new instructional, opportunities. And so we encourage you to vote on the bond in November 2012, and we will make sure that we put those dollars to the greatest use for the best possible outcome for our kids.
I think everyone can understand the value of that. Right now, we're preparing mightily to get ready for the 2012-13 school year. This building will be open on the first day of school. Tell the public a little bit about who is going to be getting their education, who's going to be learning, working, and playing here.
So the La Escuelita students who were here previously will actually be opening this school. We're a few weeks away from opening, and as I say, they've waited on this for many, many years. There is a portion of this project that won't be complete. The high school portion where Met West is. Met West will still be here in old facilities. That's a part of Phase 2. Phase 2 will be over about 1.5 years from now, and the entire project will be complete at that time.
We know you've got a lot of work ahead of you, but you're doing a great job, and the results are clear. California Department of Education is recognizing your work, and we thank you for that.
That's pretty hot. I think just this report that they're going to unveil today, it should light a fire under this entire state to talk about what we actually need for equity across school facilities in this state. And our superintendent, our board, has been a leader in that for many, many years. And so it's really a pleasure for Center for Cities and Schools, Jeff Vincent, CDE, to come down here and launch this report at our new La Escuelita site.
Indeed, we look forward to more great things.
Yes,
Thanks,
yes.
Tim.
Thank you.
We're joined now by Oakland School Board President and District 1 Director, Jody London. Jody, you're involved with all aspects of the school district, but I know you take a special interest in facilities and specifically in green, sustainable building. Could you talk a little bit about why that's important to you personally and why it's meaningful for the school district?
Well, there's a large body of research that shows that buildings that are constructed according to green building guidelines are more comfortable and that the people who live and work in them perform better. So when we have green schools, we know that our teachers will be more comfortable and our students have better conditions for learning. I work in the energy industry professionally. I've worked in the energy industry for 22 years, and it's been really exciting for me as a parent and then as a member of the school board to see the district embrace green building policies and be putting up these kinds of state-of-the-art buildings across the city, making really large investments in neighborhoods and employing a lot of local Oakland residents along the way.
So OUSD has been recognized in the state and also nationally as a leader in green building. Can you talk about some of the distinctions and awards we've received?
Well, the project that we did at Chabot Elementary was the first project in the state to get matching grants from the state for being a green building, and we've continued that work across the city. We've been recognized by, we present papers regularly at the California School Board Association and other national conferences, and it's really great for us to have this level of recognition and support from everybody.
And what would you tell the public who might have questions about this investment? Why is it worthwhile? And why do we need to continue to value green building?
We only build new schools once every 80 years. It's a once in 2 or 3 generation opportunity, and if we're going to do it, we should do it really well and according to the best guidelines and information that's available.
Excellent.
Thank
you,
you.
Jody.